Live. We got camera here and camera there. Hello, Bobo.
What's up, Raleigh?
Not much. Welcome everybody to Live Forever Young Radio Live.
Yeah.
The new incarnation of our podcast, Live Forever Young Radio. We are going to be talking about something that's been in the news a little bit lately. I'm sure you've heard it, Bob.
Yeah.
There's been some information come out recently about some of the melatonin gummies that you can get, and the amount of melatonin and other ingredients not being exactly what they say. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're also going to talk about sleep, the importance of it, the risks that you will have for your health if you happen to be a poor sleeper or have sleep issues, the causes, anxiety and depression, all these things that can cause it. And we're also going to go over some tips and tricks that we know of that can actually help with better sleep. So welcome, everybody. Welcome again. And Bob, starting it off, we got the article here, right? One of the things that was alarming that actually kind of caused the study to happen was a dramatic increase in pediatric hospitalizations. Did you hear about that?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was actually, got the number here, a 530% increase in pediatric hospitalizations related to melatonin, right? So the use of melatonin has increased quite a bit over the past 2 decades among people of all ages. And obviously with the increase in this, what comes with it? Spikes in hospitalizations.
Yeah. It's unfortunate because usually kids and young adults make all the melatonin that they actually need.
Right.
These are kids that are being given melatonin because they're having trouble with sleep, which is leading to all different things.
Right.
And it's not the best idea necessarily. And so today we'll give a bunch of tips about sleep that could be used for anybody, including children.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the big things right out of the gate with children is they spend so much time nowadays on their phones.
Yeah.
It's blue light. They're doing it right up to bedtime. And their brain still thinks that it's daytime.
Right.
So we'll talk about that and what to do about that.
Absolutely. Hey, Bob, give me 1 second. I want to make sure I have the audio set up right, because I think I might have set to the wrong mic. Bear with me a second, guys. Blue Snowball. Yeah. It's behind the monitor. So let me get this out here.
You can reach it.
Oh, yeah, I got it. I just got to have it in front of the camera. That might help, guys. You know, a little bit of a microphone. You can hear us better now, hopefully. Sorry about that. All right, let's see how bad that screwed things up. Not bad at all. We're looking good still. So, either way, it's a sensitive mic, so I'm sure everybody heard it.
Yeah. Now we have a giant blue snowball in the screen, which is cool.
Actually, I think I can lower it. Hold on, let me see if I can. Yeah, I can lower it. Not that much.
It's all right.
But it makes us look professional.
It's actually a white blue snowball.
It's a white blue snowball, but it works.
Right. In Florida, we better get this done. It might melt.
Yes, I agree. We better get it going. So anyway,
speaking of melting, it's going to rain tomorrow.
Yes,
a lot.
And we've gotten hail in Florida.
Yeah, I know.
2 feet of hail down.
Right.
It's crazy.
And so we won't need to turn the sprinkler on tomorrow for our new lawn.
No, watering a new lawn is fun, especially when you have hail. But anyway, so guys, a couple little things we were talking about. So I have some statistics here. I just wanted to go over. So obviously, one of the things that caused this study to happen with the melatonin gummies was the spike in hospitalizations. There's about a 530% jump in pediatric hospitalizations related to melatonin. And what we were looking at is some data, some federal data that shows the number of U.S. children who were unintentionally ingested melatonin supplements jumped to that 530% from 2012 to 2021. More than about 4,000 of the reported indigestions led to a hospital stay. There were 287 required intensive care, and actually 2 children died from it, right? Mm-hmm. So it's a serious thing. And you actually kind of need to take a look and make sure that the methods that you're using, maybe there's a better way to do it. So the vast majority of the gummies, they say, sold in the U.S., may possibly contain up to 347% more melatonin than what's listed on the label. And some products also contain CBD. This obviously may explain some of these massive jumps in pediatric hospitalizations.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really unfortunate because there's some simple techniques that you can use to help with sleep, whether it's a child or an adult. We'll go over those, today.
Mm-hmm.
But a big one with children is they're on their phones until right up to bedtime. It's blue light. Blue light indicates daytime to your body, mind, your biorhythms. And so a child that's on his phone all day with blue light, and especially in the evening after the sun goes down, and whether it's you're watching TV, you're on a computer screen, or you're on your cell phone, it's interrupting your biorhythms and making it difficult to sleep. So we'll get into that, but
one of the things too that we wanted to go over was like some of the limitations, because there was a little bit of limitations on this study. First of all, they were done with gummies, and gummies are notoriously hard to get accurate doses in each one. So at least looking at that, of the 25 products, 22 were inaccurately labeled, and only 3 contained the quantity of melatonin that was within 10% plus or minus of the declared quantity. The limitation was that only the gummies were analyzed, and these individual products were only from one batch. So, like we do supplements, we sell supplements, so we know they make them in batches. So they were thinking maybe we should have tested something from a different batch. But even irregardless of that, 88% of what was tested was inaccurate. So we could imagine some irregularities in the gummy formulation, but that's a pretty big percentage is what they were saying. So chances are a lot of it might be inaccurate. Another thing that we found in this study is there was actually a Canadian study where they did this. They studied 16 Canadian melatonin brands, and they found the actual dose of melatonin ranged from about 17% to 478% of the declared quantity of melatonin. So it's kind of something that has been pretty consistent, and that's why you need to be really cautious if you're trying to use melatonin as a sleep aid, especially for someone who's younger. You really, like we were talking about, there's actually better ways to deal with it. And kind of at the end of the study here, what they're talking about is children really don't need melatonin. One of the psychologists and founder of sleepdoctor.com, Michael Bruce, PhD, was saying that, kids as a general rule really don't need melatonin. Their brains, and this is what you were talking about, make almost 4 times the necessary amount already, right? So if you're giving kids pills to help them sleep, that's kind of another pill problem or habit you're forming that you really don't need to, and that causes another issue. And then he ends up saying most children's falling asleep and staying asleep issues can be treated with behavioral measures like cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia. Now, sleep issues in children are very important, so you want to obviously talk to your practitioner and doctor. But
yeah, especially if the child has depression or anxiety or other mental health issues, they're very serious. They have to be under the care of a licensed psychologist or a psychiatrist, a medical doctor.
Mm-hmm.
But there are things that parents can know about that can be an adjunct or an assisted type of way to the treatment from the professionals.
Right.
But, having poor sleep is obviously really bad for everybody, but with children in particular, they're going to have a very hard time performing in school.
Yep.
Concentrating, focus. They're going to be falling asleep in
Mm-hmm.
school. And this is going to make it worse because, not performing in school creates more anxiety.
Right. And that's like a vicious cycle that they get stuck in. Another thing that we found while we were doing our research on melatonin is a study published around March 27th which was a few days before this recent study, was mentioning that melatonin appears to help young adolescents or teenagers that are at risk of self-harm in reducing that risk. Um, there's more evidence needs to be looked at, but what they were saying is the real reason why it might help with reducing incidents of self-harm is because it actually helps with the issues of not being able to sleep. But the real root, it says here in many of these cases, is anxiety and depression.
Yeah.
Right? Like you had mentioned.
Yeah.
And so if anxiety and depression is the key root of this, then that's kind of where we want to focus things. And again, with the help of a physician, medical practitioner, there might be other options than having to go to melatonin based on this new study, right? And even in the new study, Dr. Bruce had mentioned that cognitive behavioral therapy is a really good way to help treat insomnia, especially in younger adolescents. So we've gotten 2 new studies recently that came out that are kind of contradictory, but you can see how they relate. And the real root of the problem is what?
Yeah, well, with a child, that has anxiety or depression, there could be many different causes.
Exactly.
But all of them are addressable, right? So there's many different techniques that parents can use to both help themselves and their children. Children, in particular teenagers, can be difficult to communicate with. They have their own agenda, their own thoughts about things. Well, one of the best things that parents can learn and teach their kids is nonviolent communication.
Yes, we actually have a podcast about that. If you actually visit our website, boomerboost.com, you'll be able to find some stuff about actually a really couple good shows about nonviolent communication that actually kind of explain how it works. It's quite a useful tool, but go ahead.
Well, kids have a lot of emotions and they want to express how they're feeling. But sometimes society can set up a circumstance where they don't feel comfortable doing that,
right?
Especially if their parents, their teachers, their friends are not skilled in communicating in a way that makes it safe for people to express their feelings.
Right.
And NVC, nonviolent communication, is a system that allows for that and encourages it. And it not only can facilitate a child's expression, but they can become skilled in facilitating that for their friends and other people they communicate with. So it's very, very valuable, and sometimes miraculous changes can occur, right? But some of the other risks, other than a child being hospitalized, your brain actually shrinks if you are not getting adequate sleep.
Yes, actually, we've read some stuff that says there is an atrophy, if you will, of the brain.
Yeah, and it also has a really negative effect on your immune system as well. People not getting enough sleep are going to be more susceptible to all different types of pathogens. You also it also is a contributing factor to cancer. Poor sleep. That's partly because of what's happening with your immune system. And if you're a person that has diabetes, which there are many millions that do, it accelerates it. It makes it worse. And then we talked a little bit about, your focus and concentration. And that can be a problem with anybody who has a driver's license. Right?
Absolutely.
They say don't operate machinery when you're on this medication, right? Because you could be sleepy, or don't drive. But even if you're not taking a medication, if you're not getting adequate sleep, you're at much higher risk for accidents, cancer, etc. And in fact, you're 3 times more likely to die from all causes if you're getting poor sleep.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned it's not just with you had mentioned driving, but actually falling. Because you're tired. Not being able to have the energy that allows you to function properly can actually lead to injury because you make a mistake because you're sleepy.
Yeah,
and that's something we were reading
And
about as well.
it also leads to being irritable. So
Yes,
you're easily
yes.
triggered by other things, other people, which is going to make it more difficult for your relationships, which is going to cause more anxiety that leads to poor sleep. So the point being, there's a lot of bad things that happen if you're not getting enough sleep. And of all the things that relate to your energy, which we talked about on the last show, sleep is the most important thing.
Absolutely. Now, we have a lot of people that we talk to that call us that have issues with sleep here at Boomer Products. And a lot of the times they don't have a real good bedroom routine set up. I know we've talked about this a few times, but it's really important to stress that you get your body into a routine. As humans, we are creatures of habit, and our body works. And we've talked about this in our equinox and daylight savings time video, where your body has an internal clock, and it has a certain circadian rhythm that if it's not in rhythm, it affects a lot of stuff. So when you have a routine, that's like a signal to your body that says, hey, it's time. It's time to relax, change your beta wave. What did you change your beta waves to alpha or alpha to beta? How's that work?
Well, when you're awake, you're in splayed beta. So
splayed beta.
Splayed means basically they're talking about a readout on an electroencephalograph, and the beta waves are on the top, and then you have on the bottom, you have delta waves, which is your wave of sleep.
Okay.
And so when you look at it, if the line is wide, that means there's a lot, and if it's narrow, there's a little. So when sleep-wake disorder specialists look at your brain waves, what they're looking for is for beta to narrow down where you have less beta, which is the wave of your awake state.
So be beta awake.
Yeah, and then they're looking for delta to splay, which is to widen, meaning now you have the appropriate pattern.
And delta is sleep.
Yeah, delta is the wave of sleep.
D, downtime, right. Delta. So D for downtime, delta, that's your sleep wave. Okay.
Yeah, so there's a few things that have to happen for you to fall asleep. You need to start to wind down the activity, and it'll wind down the beta.
Oh, hey, how's it going? Hey, Christina. Hey, Stephanie. How's it going, you guys? We got Christina and Stephanie here. Stephanie is one of our amazing Boomer Product family members.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining me, guys. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah. So
splayed beta.
So a few things have to happen for you to be able to get to sleep.
Right.
So you need to change your brain waves. The second thing is you have to alter the light. Meaning you can't, your brain is not going to begin to narrow the beta waves, and it's not going to begin to start converting serotonin into melatonin unless light changes. You have photoreceptors in your brain, and they're very sensitive to light and dark.
Absolutely. Rods and cones.
So here's the thing that you want to do is make sure, okay, I'm going to try to go to bed at the same time every night. Let's call it 10 o'clock. Okay. Right? So that means at 9 o'clock, an hour before, if I'm going to take my good night formula, the Boomer's good night formula, you want to take it at 9, and you want to wind down the blue light. So if you're watching TV, you either have to have a blue blocker over the TV or blue blocker glasses.
Blue blocker, are they a screen for in front of?
Yeah, and you can get them for your computer and for your phone.
I knew about the glasses. I didn't realize they had screens.
There's screens to block them also. And then you want to make sure that in your room, you don't have light coming in. So a lot of people don't have blackout curtains.
No, they don't.
So there's light outside, street lights, the moon, etc., and the light will come through thin curtains, and your brain won't completely know that it's time for bed. The other thing is you might have little cracks at the edges of your curtains that's allowing little bits of light in, or you might have LED lights on your alarm clock. If you got a TV in your room, it might have an LED light on the TV, on the cable box. Those all need to be covered over. Easiest way to do it is get black tape and just put the tape over it. And when you need to have access to that LED, just roll it up and tape it up.
Yeah. Now that sounds extreme, but these little things can actually be triggers subconsciously too that you don't really realize. And then you kind of cover them, or you do these things and you realize, wow, I'm sleeping better.
Well, not only that, but the routine itself is
Right.
telling your body mind we're getting ready to go to sleep.
Right. We're getting those waves splayed and baited.
Yeah. Yeah. So those are real important things to know about. You also have to be able to relax your muscles.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So sleep is attended by relaxation of your muscles, and there is a process that happens as the sun goes down where your brainstem begins to get pinged in a sequence by vitamin D.
Mm-hmm.
And each time it hits a spot in your brainstem, particular muscles will start to relax. So some people know that it's time for bed when their feet start to feel funny,
mm-hmm.
because the muscles are getting very relaxed,
mm-hmm.
and they're not beating anymore. And so you're not getting as much blood circulation, and people's feet will start to tingle or feel a little bit numb.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, man, it's time for bed.
Actually, while you're talking about that, it's funny. I read a study about people who sleep with socks on tend to sleep a little better. And that might be because if your circulation slows down, those extremities are going to get cold.
Well, they do get cold, but you also want them to relax.
Right? Oh, okay.
And so there's a few different ways that you can help that process. And for some people, that's their whole problem, that their muscles can't relax, in particular in their back, their upper back. So you can get a device that is a sleep mat that is like a little bed of nails.
Oh yeah, circulation mat.
Yeah, and so this bed of nails, they have these circular things about this big, and there's 100 little peaks of plastic or copper. I have copper.
Ooh.
That are sticking up, and so there's like 100 little nail tips on each one, and they're sewn into a mat. So there's 10,000 little spikes.
And you roll it out and lay it down.
You put it on your bed. You wear a t-shirt because you don't want it against your bare skin.
Right.
Although some people do with the copper ones, because there's other metals in there, and it's actually a mineral treatment.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Okay. Now, but you're better off using a t-shirt. Because it's just more comfortable.
Sure.
But what happens is that stimulation relaxes your muscles in your upper back, and some people use that to be able to fall asleep.
You know what I've heard with those stim mats, the mats with they're like plastic nails you're talking about. Truckers, it's great for truckers to sit on because they're on the road so long and their back's all tensed up and having to shift it. And this actually helps increase circulation for over-the-road truckers.
Well, not only that, but over-the-road truckers get problems with their kidneys because all the bouncing is bouncing their kidneys. So truckers will get problems with their kidneys, and what that leads to is a condition that makes it so they can't drive. They're not allowed to drive because they don't pass their physical. High blood pressure. Problems with your kidneys leads to high blood pressure. And so when you're a trucker and you use one of those mats behind your back while you're driving, it's stimulating the blood flow, and it's stimulating blood flow to your kidneys. And people can actually help their blood pressure by using these mats. Okay?
Very cool.
So now, without that mat, there's a couple other things you can do. One is our Good Night formula, which is our sleep aid, has the exact amount of vitamin D that you need for stimulating those the points on your brainstem.
Yeah, that was something that I remember when you were formulating that, and we found that information, oddly enough, from an amazing podcast with a world-renowned sleep
scientist, sleep-wake disorder specialist. And she had done painstaking research with her with her real patients that were coming to her for help. She did research on vitamin B and vitamin D to find the sweet spot that would help relax their muscles. And that was the key for her to finally cracking the code for her most difficult sleep patients.
Mm-hmm.
When she figured out that it was 100 international units an hour before bed, that the average person would then be able to relax their muscles, that's when a lot of her patients were cured.
We're sleeping. Yeah,
Right.
we're sleeping.
So that's why we put that amount in. But there's also B vitamins that help you to stay asleep. And again, she figured out the exact amount.
And that's odd because when you hear B vitamins, they associate that with energy. So actually, we've had some people. So what we're talking about is a formula we created, or Bob created, called Good Night Formula. And what it is it's a really good mix of not just like melatonin and other natural extracts, the melatonin in the correct amounts.
Yeah,
but
it's a pill form.
So it's a pill, so it's not a gummy, right? And we've also, with this painstaking research that we've found, realized that there's vitamin B and vitamin D that need to be added in precise amounts.
Yes.
And so that's actually the differentiating factor between the Good Night Formula and many other natural sleep aids. There's no habit forming stuff in it, right? So it helps very much. We've had lots of customers that have come to us specifically with sleep issues that it's helped with. Now, on the other hand, we've had lots of customers who've come to us with sleep issues that have issues with anxiety. And no matter what you're using, if you have that anxiety and it's you're not going to be well, you're not going to sleep well, and you're not going to be healthy, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of that comes from when you sleep, you do a lot of repair. Like that's your body's time to repair.
Yeah.
Right.
Rest and repair. You shift into parasympathetic nervous system time. Your brain begins to convert your serotonin, which is your neurotransmitter of your waking state, goes along with splayed beta.
Mm-hmm.
And it begins, because of the issue with light, and this is assuming that you wind down the blue light, your brain begins to convert that serotonin into melatonin.
And that's the good one.
Then the melatonin then rises and falls in your brain in 1.5-hour cycles.
Right.
And so that's why you want to try to sleep in 1.5-hour cycles, meaning if you're going to bed at 10 o'clock, all right, an 1.5-hour cycle is going to be 11:30, then 1 o'clock,
right,
then 2:30,
right,
then 4 o'clock.
So you always say try to set your alarm for that interval.
So if you look at it, it comes out to 7.5 hours or 9 hours. Right?
Okay.
Most people don't want to sleep 8 hours, because if you do, you'll wake up in the middle of a sleep cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have to get up, your brain still has lots of melatonin.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're not asleep, it takes a lot longer for the melatonin to dissipate.
So why do they tell us 8 hours? They should say 7.5 or 9.
Well, there's usually about 95% of the people are within 5 minutes of an 1.5 hours.
Okay.
And so, but 5 minutes over the course of 6 sleep cycles. Okay.
Gotcha.
Is a 1/2 hour.
So
the way to really do it is to find out for yourself. You set your alarm go to bed at 10 o'clock, knowing if you can fall asleep within about a few minutes. If you're going to fall asleep right away, if it takes you 15 minutes to fall asleep, go to bed at 9:45. And you fall asleep, set your alarm for 7.5 hours later, right? And see if the alarm wakes you up or if you wake up before the alarm. If you wake up before the alarm, say 15 minutes earlier, you know that is your particular cycle. Okay. And so the next time, set the alarm for that time.
Gotcha.
Instead of 7 in the morning, whatever it turns out to be, you set it for quarter of 7, quarter after 7, whatever it turns out is best for you.
Gotcha.
And then you will know your own personal amount of time you need to sleep.
Absolutely.
8 hours might be correct for you, but in general, it's not. In general, it's closer to 7.5.
Right. And when we're talking about this is in general terms, but you're right. Everybody's body's different. and it reacts differently and needs different things. So yeah, sleep times can vary. And, we had some cool comments here. Stephanie, like I said, one of our boomer families, she put in here very specific amounts. And I believe that's in reference to our Goodnight formula. And the Goodnight formula is something that we were talking about and is actually something that we have available at our website, boomerboost.com. So if you guys want to kind of check out the specifics on it, some more videos, or even our podcast that we did called Tips for Better Sleep. It's similar to this, but there's some other things we go into. Check us out at boomerboost.com, or you can call us, 1-800-861-4609. And we have awesome people like Stephanie that will actually give you some more information or help you get right with whatever it is question you have. If you guys are watching and you have some questions, you can put them in the chat. I'm manning the chat. If you see me looking back and forth, it's because I'm manning the chat here. So forgive me. I'm not trying to ignore anybody. But I did see Chrissy added a little cool thing in here I wanted to highlight. Let me pull it up on the chat. It looks like she is working on a new juice recipe. So we also have recipes at boomerboost.com where you can learn how to use our awesome products in different ways, shakes. You can actually bake a little bit, no bake really. But, you can make like peanut butter barley bars with our Gladiator barley. This is perfect to add into like a green juice or something that you do some juicing with. Heirloom barley. That's great for people who want to build muscle, but not too much. You can add that on yogurt, salad. So all the recipes and stuff. Chrissy is our R&D department. She also does a lot of stuff for advertising on social media with us, but she is going to be sharing a new juice recipe soon. I actually got to watch her do it. It's going to have, I believe it's going to have beets.
She's got a lot of great recipes up already.
There's actually one that we put up not too long ago called green tea matcha latte.
Yeah.
And that was a good one.
Yeah, and if they want to find those recipes, if you go to boomerboost.com, hover over the part that says podcasts and blogs.
Yes.
And you'll see recipes in the drop down.
Yes.
And click there.
And you'll find 30, 40 different recipes. So check it out. But anyway, back on to what we were talking about.
So in regard to relaxing your muscles,
right,
you can also do progressive relaxation.
Yes.
This works really well. Don't discount this because it sounds new age and hokey. It's not. If you lie down and you focus on your toes and you say, I'm relaxing my toes, and then I'm relaxing my feet, all right, then you go move up. I'm relaxing my calf muscles, my quads, and relaxing my torso, and absolutely focus on your back and your shoulders and your stomach. I'm relaxing my back muscles. I'm relaxing, and speak to yourself in hypnotic languaging.
Mm.
So don't have a run-on sentence. Speak on your out breath. Okay, because now you're syncing your breath. So it's like this. I'm relaxing my toes. I'm relaxing my feet. Right? So when you speak in a cadence, you're speaking in hypnotic language. So
you're making me feel sleepy right now, bro. I'm serious.
So Raleigh,
yes,
I'm not going to tell you that all these great things that we're discussing about sleep are the right thing for you. Who would I be to tell you that these are the right thing for you?
Right.
Yeah? I'm just saying that if you were to try this and you look back, say 6 months from now,
right,
you might just conclude that these are the right things for you, won't you?
I think I may.
Now, let me tell you something. There's a podcast called Sleep With Me.
Yes.
And the podcast is essentially doing the same thing, but in a different way. It's actually confusing your mind with a sequence of nonsensical statements.
That's funny.
And when your mind is confused, you tend to narrow your beta and splay your theta, alpha, and delta. So a hypnotist will say to someone, this is what Milton Erickson, probably the most famous hypnotist who ever lived, was on the cover of Life magazine and Time magazine in the same year for his discoveries. And he was the first person really that was helping people that lived in psychiatric hospitals.
Mm-hmm.
He was using cognitive therapy to help them get better and get discharged
There you go.
and off their meds. That's how effective he was.
Mm.
And what he would say to someone that would come into his office, he would say, "Hello, Raleigh, can you sit down?"
Yeah.
So the person's brain gets a little confused. Can I sit down? Of course I can sit down. Is he asking me to sit down? And the next thing you know, they're sitting down, because the sit down comes with, "Hello, Raleigh, can you sit down?" Okay. So now you're sitting down, and he'll ask you, "How does your seat feel?"
It feels.
You mean the chair?
I don't know.
The seat I'm sitting in? Or how does my butt feel?
Right.
And now you're even further confused.
I actually am getting confused.
And so what he'll then say to you is, "Can you close your eyes?"
What do you mean, can I close my eyes? Well, yeah, I think I can.
And so the reason Milton Erickson did this is he was trying to calm down the person's conscious mind, which is causing their anxiety. They've got this, crazy, activity going on in their mind, related to fear and other things. And so he wanted to calm that so he could find out how to help using your unconscious mind, which is 90% of what's going on in your mind is other than conscious.
Wow,
and he
crazy.
needed access to that in order to do therapy. So he developed this technique. Okay. Now, when you go to NLP school, hypnosis school, that's what they teach you to do to help your client. But you can use it for yourself to help put yourself to sleep. So you can listen to the podcast Sleep With Me, which is actually created by a guy right here in Tampa. It is hundreds of thousands of people that use it.
Yep.
And he's using a particular hypnotic technique to allow you to fall asleep.
Yep. There's a lot of that good stuff. One of the ones that my daughter uses is similar. Sometimes she'll put it on and it'll be kind of a little bit of music, but some ethereal sounds. And then when the person speaks, it's always on the one of the beat,
Yeah.
And you're going to sleep and you're having a good dream.
Right.
And it's always in kind of time with this ethereal
and she
music.
can sync her breath to that.
She actually usually does.
Yes.
It's actually
Sync
kind
your
of
breath
funny.
to it. Now, syncing your breath is a really great technique for reducing anxiety.
I've noticed this. Actually, one of the techniques that we do, the ultimate mind calming exercise, requires a little bit of breathing.
Yeah.
And when you breathe, you sync it to your head rotation. And the syncing of that is kind of similar in that manner.
Very calming. Very, very calming. So do the progressive relaxation. Start with your toes. Some people even get carried away and they'll go, okay, my toes are relaxed. Now I'm relaxing the transverse arches underneath the soles of my feet.
Wow.
Now I'm relaxing my left medial longitudinal arch, and now my right medial longitudinal arch. Now I'm relaxing my tarsal arch, right? Because these are soft tissues.
I didn't know
relax, right? And so if you focus on your soft tissue, that's what is going to relax.
That's interesting.
Right? Most of your foot is bone,
right?
But then there's all these soft tissues. And so if you focus on the soft tissue, you don't have to know the scientific name for it. I'm relaxing the soft tissue in my feet.
Nice.
Wow. That's a lot more effective than I'm relaxing my foot, because bones tend not to relax.
Right.
Okay. So this is very effective. By the time you get up to your back, and the back is the most important part to relax, because it's tense muscles in your back and your neck that are causing most of the tension that keeps you awake. And part of it is like this, okay? If you have anxiety and you're thinking a lot and you're worried about stuff, which 95% of the time, that's the state of mind of the average American, is a state of worry.
Correct.
And you're worrying like this. And your neck is tight.
Yep.
Your shoulders are tight. Your back is tight, and you can't sleep. So when you purposefully relax those muscles, it also relaxes your mind, because the tenseness, right? If you just go like this, right, you're feeling tense. for no reason in your mind. You
Mhm.
just created anxiety.
Mhm.
You tighten up your hand, your face tightens up.
Mhm.
Right? So you want to relax, tighten up your hand, and then let it go relax. Let your face relax. Now you have clarity through contrast, because a lot of people say, well, how do I relax? First get real tense and then notice the opposite. The best way to do this is at the very end, you do your progressive relaxation and you finish with your tongue.
Yep, we've talked
Relax
about
your
this.
tongue, right? People say, well, how do I relax my tongue? First, tense it. You tense it, you feel part of your face, it's tensing, then relax it. Let it fall slack in your mouth. Right? It's very hard to stay awake when your tongue is relaxed. You get sleepy in the middle of the day if you relax your tongue. The reason is your tongue is connected to your speech center, right?
Yep.
Your tongue is speech, and the speech center in your brain, Brokaw's area, when you are awake and your tongue is moving, you're speaking, Brokaw's area lights up and it's very active, right? That's associated with Sleep Beta. So if you relax your tongue, Brokaw's area is like on a dimmer switch. As soon as you relax your tongue, it's like turning down the dimmer switch. And then what happens to your beta waves? Very hard to stay awake when your tongue's relaxed. Right?
So relaxing the tongue, something you would never really think about, but because your tongue is controlled by the part of your brain called Brokaw's area where your speech is developed, it makes a lot of sense.
They're connected neuronally, and as soon as you relax your tongue, Brokaw's area has no choice.
Well, yeah, I don't know if they're connected physically. That'd be funny if your tongue went all the way into your brain. I don't know if
there's nerves in your tongue.
Nerve, tongue, brain
try
connection.
putting a hot pin on your tongue.
Oh no, no.
There's nerves in your tongue.
Don't tell people that. They might do that. So.
No, they won't.
No, I'm just kidding.
So,
but yeah, back to, so here we were, right? So we're talking about sleep, the medications that have been, studied recently. The melatonin gummies is for anybody who maybe just joined. We were talking about how a lot of, here's the number. The number was 300 melatonin gummies in this study contained up to 347% more melatonin than what was listed on the label, right? And the big problem with that is it started leading to spikes in hospitalizations of pediatric patients. And that's because they were starting to obviously use melatonin to help these kids sleep. And, if the label is telling you there's something on there and there's way more, then you're getting overdosed. And that can cause poisoning. That's increased by 530% jump. The pediatric hospitalizations have gone up that much since 2012 is the date that they were using the data from. So what we were talking about is really, and what kind of comes at the end of the study is they were talking about how children make up almost 4 times more melatonin naturally than adults. So really they shouldn't need to supplement with melatonin, right? And what we could try to rely on is what we're talking about, some reliance on cognitive behavioral therapy, and actually working through it and addressing the anxiety and depression, which in many cases is the thing that causes the sleep problem. So that's where we were.
So probably a couple of the things that parents can do for their children that are having trouble sleeping. You can learn other techniques. So first, we talked about learning nonviolent communication.
Right.
Very, very important. You can also learn to do lymph drainage.
Yes. Right? It's actually very relaxing.
Yeah. Lymph drainage is very effective because a big part of why people need to sleep is to detox. And you detox a lot through your lymph system.
Right.
And so if you are going to, say you have a 12-year-old son and he needs to fall asleep, he's having trouble. You've done all the other things we talked about, winding down the blue light, blacking out the room, etc. You're speaking to him, allowing him to express his feelings, all throughout the day. And then you can also very gently massage the child's lymph nodes. Start with the clavicle nodes right here. Just gently massage your fingers in and down without dragging. just push in and down. And right away, this begins to make people feel relaxed. If you were to go for a professional lymph massage session that would last about an hour, typically what happens is the client falls asleep during the session, and it's very hard to wake them up. And so you have lymph therapists that need to have 2 different rooms so they can allow the other person to sleep for a while, or they have to schedule their clients farther apart.
How long do they let them sleep?
Usually about an hour.
Wow.
Yeah. And then they'll gently wake them up. Okay. And so if you learn to do lymph drainage from our video on manual lymphatic drainage, you can do that not only for your son, but for your husband or wife, or you can do it for yourself.
Yes.
You can teach the whole family how to do it.
And, it's funny. It's really definitely helpful. When we actually have a podcast about lymph drainage and specifically lymph nodes and how they work. So check that out at boomerboost.com. But what you don't realize is that there's these things that can get clogged up, right? And these lymph nodes, the actual nodes are where a lot of this interstitial fluid, is that the word?
Well, the interstitial fluid is where the blood plasma drops into, and then the lymph vessels have these little valves that open, and they bring that fluid in, and now they have the blood plasma, and it's for the purpose of cleansing it.
Right, but like with any plumbing, those valves can get clogged up.
Well, not only that, but the nodes. So the system is a bunch of vessels,
right,
and then it comes to these nodes,
right,
and they sit in the nodes for a while. The fluid sits in the nodes for a while, and that's where the detoxification occurs.
Gotcha.
Right, but if you have too much toxins, right, then those nodes can get plugged up, and then everything behind it gets plugged up.
It's like a backed up toilet.
And so if you massage the nodes and massage the vessels, now everything works better. Your body is much, much healthier, and you are going to sleep better.
Right. And that's the whole point. That's what we're talking about. How to sleep better. Tips and tricks on how to sleep better is where we are. And so
how do they get that? How do they find that? The lymph drain, we have 2 different videos on.
Read my mind. So we've got a couple different ones. If you go to our YouTube, which is Boomers Forever Young, which is where we're live streaming to now, you can find a video on lymph drainage there, how to do it. We also have that information up on boomerboost.com. If you go to, believe it's under self-care. Yes. If you
go to podcasts and blogs.
Yep.
Drop down menu, self-care.
Yep.
You're going to see the lymph drainage video.
Yep.
You're going to see the ultimate mind calming exercise, which you can do for sleep as well.
That's a great one. The ultimate mind calming exercise is there. We also have a video on YouTube about the ultimate mind calming exercise, aka head circles. That's the breathing technique that I had just mentioned, and that is actually very good. You don't even have it's you can use it at any time. It's great for sleep, but if you're feeling overwhelmed and you need to go into a state of, as Bob says, no mind or clear your head, that is a great technique.
You also have 2 other amazing techniques for sleep. One is havening.
So absolutely.
Havening is very, very simple, but very profound. And simple havening is just rubbing your hands together. So if you want to fall asleep and you find your mind is racing, one of the things you can do, just simply rub your hands together like this. Maybe rub your arms a little bit. You can even rub your face. And just repeat a phrase. They would say something like, even though up until this moment, I thought I was having trouble falling asleep, I completely love and accept myself. And I'm so grateful now that I realize everything is okay. My mind is calming down. I'm feeling extremely peaceful and extremely sleepy. Boom. Okay. There's something magic about rubbing your hands together, rubbing your arms, that changes what's happening in your amygdala. And your amygdala is having chemical reactions in it when you're in anxiety or when you're in splayed beta. And so what you're doing with that rubbing technique is you're changing the brainwave in the amygdala from splayed beta to delta. So the technique was not developed for sleep. It was developed for PTSD and anxiety And of course, but it happens to also work for sleep. You can also use it. People are familiar with tapping, the emotional freedom technique.
Right. We talked
Instead
about
of rubbing
that.
your hands together, you can tap on your fingertips. Okay. And as you're tapping, you can say the same kind of phrase. Even though up until now, thought I was having trouble falling asleep, I completely love and accept myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so grateful now that I realize I am falling asleep right now. If you use that cadence of your speech and you sync it with your breath, even more profound. You probably won't even, if you sync it to your breath and your speech when you're repeating that phrase and you're tapping or havening, you probably won't make it through till the end.
There you go.
You'll fall asleep in the middle of it.
And those are some techniques that we covered in a lot of our podcasts. So check it out again on YouTube, Boomers Forever Young YouTube, and again at boomerboost.com. Up at the top, Live Forever Young podcasts and blogs. We not only have that, but that's where you can find the recipes like we were talking about. A lot of really good free resources that you can kind of go and use.
Two other things I thought of, Rob, could be very helpful. Inner balance.
Yes.
Boy, inner balance, the device Inner Balance from HeartMath really helps with sleep a tremendous amount.
Absolutely.
It involves the syncing of your breath.
Right.
But this gives you feedback.
Yes, right? It's a little clip you clip on your ear, and it actually Bluetooth connects to your telephone.
Yeah.
Well, cell phone. What year is this? Telephones. Cell phone. And it gives you an actual real-time readout of what they call compliance, right? That's what they refer to it as.
And it's actually measuring your heart rate variability.
Correct. HRV measurement.
And it turns out this device is also having a positive effect on your amygdala.
Yep.
Right? The same way you can do with havening.
Right. And a lot of it relies on thinking of what you should be grateful for.
Yep.
That being grateful unlocks a lot of things with the amygdala brain connection that allow you to experience more calmness, less anxiety, and more focus.
And that's why in the phrase we just went over at the end, you say, and I'm so grateful now that I realize I'm feeling very sleepy.
Yep.
The I'm so grateful changes the brainwave in your amygdala.
There you go.
And so that's one. The other thing is this, and we don't have anything about this on our website.
Oh, well, we'll have to.
Fisher-Wallace stimulator
is
FDA approved for treating insomnia. Right? It's also FDA approved for treating depression and anxiety. Okay? So a Fisher-Wallace stimulator can help a child, an adult, with depression, with anxiety, and with sleep. So the way that it works is it comes with a little power supply, and that power supply turns on for 20 minutes. You have pads that fit in these little plastic sleeves. You put the pads on your head, you wrap the headband around, turn on the device till you feel a little tingling on your skin, and then when you do, you turn it back till the tingling stops. So there's no pain associated with this.
Right.
And it's running a very specific electrical current through your brain.
Mm.
And the scientist, Dr. List, that invented it, who's since passed away many years ago, figured out the exact waveform and the exact pulsing, how long it's on for, how long it's off for, because he synced it to the natural electrical signaling in your brain.
There you go.
And what he discovered, particularly with depression, was that you could have plenty of serotonin, right, supply, but in the receptor cell where it needed to land, and that's where all the magic happens with the metabolic pathway. It's not in the supply cell, it's in the receptor. Right?
Okay.
That the serotonin was not making it to the receptor. It tried to jump across the synapse to the receptor, and it wasn't making it. And it was because that person's brain had low electrical potential. And so when he increased the electrical potential, the serotonin made it all the way to the receptor cell. And you also have to have electrical potential in that cell in order for the metabolic pathway to occur. And so he was affecting both the synapse and the receptor cell positively, and he ended up creating what was essentially a cure for depression in some circumstances where if that was the person's problem. And then when I used to work with him, we'd make sure that people had enough of the substrate supply for making the serotonin,
right?
Tryptophan, and in some cases, the receptor cells were in short supply.
Okay.
But we know that they can materialize from an adult stem cell.
Okay.
And so we would give people herbal concoctions that increased the amount of adult stem cells they were making.
Right.
And they would actually have more receptor cells. And so you had enough supply, enough receptors, and enough electrical potential. Boom, the people would be able to get off their medications.
And we did a show about stem cells called Stem Cells Need Nutrition Too. And one of the amazing things about stem cells is that if first of all, as you get older, you don't make as many, just like with almost everything we talk about. But there are ways that you can increase the proliferation, right? And then by doing that, and you get new stem cells, they're smart enough to migrate to where it needs the most help, right? Yeah. So if you can make more stem cells, that can actually help with the repair process in many different places. If they go to where they need first. And by doing that, you're going to be able to really help with that issue,
Yeah, absolutely. The last thing, and of course, we don't sell Fisher-Wallace stimulators. It requires a doctor's order.
Mm-hmm.
So this is something you do in conjunction with your doctor.
Yep.
Okay. And the scientists at Fisher-Wallace, and that's their website, fisherwallace.com.
Absolutely, actually.
Go and check it out.
Yeah, fisherwallace.com. It's amazing. We've obviously we've enlightened people of it, but like you said, you have to get a doctor's order. So a lot of the times when people we've known have actually followed through, it's almost been life-changing for a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely. So last thing is, Raleigh, we talked about circulation mat, the ones with the magic needles. That was what it was originally called.
Right.
It was called magic needles. It was invented by a Russian inventor who invented it for the truck drivers. And originally it was very crude. If you looked at, I met his wife, Anna Abrams, and she showed me all the iterations before he came up with the circular things with all the screens. And some of them look like ancient torture symbols.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
And she showed me the whole progression of it. And then I actually helped her secure her patent attorney and manufacturers and stuff like that many years ago when I helped people with inventions.
Nice.
And so she that mat is, some people call the circulation mat, but there's another circulation mat that helps with sleep as well.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a mat that's much more sophisticated, probably 6 feet long, 3 feet wide. You put it under your mattress pad and you can sleep on it.
Mm-hmm.
And it increases your circulation dramatically, like 29%. And we have a whole podcast on circulation where we talk about the effect of PEMFs on your body. And it turns out that there's a profound effect on your ability to sleep. And so a really good thing to know about.
Right.
And people can learn about that, in our podcast on circulation and the one on stem cells as well.
Yes, you can actually learn a little bit more about the PEMF mat on those. Again, that's at YouTube, Boomers Forever Young. And then you can also go again to boomerboost.com, check out Live Forever Young Radio podcasts and blogs. It'll be up at the top in the menu. And if you actually search the letters PEMF, once you get there, it'll bring up anything related to that mat we were talking about.
Search inside the Boomer Boost website.
Yep. Hit the little magnifying glass and it'll pull up a search bar. It'll let you search. But yeah, we're hitting our hour mark. So I think right now would be a good time to end it. We covered a lot of stuff. A lot of the things we talk about, it's funny, like we talk a lot about some similar stuff, but it's because we find that anxiety, depression, a lot of these issues lead to inflammation. And inflammation is something that we talk about in a lot of other podcasts too. And it can be caused by multiple things. In this case, we're talking about anxiety, depression, causing poor sleep. Just the act of not sleeping causes inflammation and things to be not as healthy, right? And so, long story short is work with what you've got, right? Instead of trying to, add a supplement in like melatonin for a child specifically, let's start addressing the anxiety and depression, which is usually the root cause of, not usually, but in many cases, the cause.
Yep. And wind down the light, especially for children.
Yes.
You want to wind down the blue light. Do not let them be on their device right up until bedtime.
Right. It makes it hard to fall asleep. But anyway, it was good.
Thanks, Raleigh.
Good. Thank you guys for joining. Listen,
Thanks,
this
everybody.
was fun. We do it every Tuesday and Thursday at 11 a.m. We go live from our YouTube channel, Boomers Forever Young. We go live on TikTok, which is over there next to the other camera. Hi. And then we go live on our Facebook accounts, which is going to be Boomer Wellness Network, Live Forever Young Radio, and then our YouTube channel is Boomers Forever Young. So we look forward to seeing you guys on the next show, and we'll talk to you then.
Go Lightning.
Let's go Lightning.
Tonight.
Tonight. Have a good one, y'all.